Hey, what's up guys? My name is StevieWunderKid and welcome back to the third drift build of the day, this time with the brand new RUNE Cheburek with the drift tuning upgrade. So really quickly, you can pick up the Cheburek from the Southern San Andreas Super Autos website for about $145,000. Then you can take it down to the mod shop in the Ellis Carmi to equip drift tuning for $200,000 plus the price of any other upgrades you add to it. So really not that expensive of a drift car, and this is one of the more unique and oddball drift cars, I'll say that right now. And of course we'll go into that as we're tuning this car, but it's a pretty fun build. We've also got some new liveries on it, so let's hop into the mod shop and showcase everything you guys need to know. Alright, so pulling into the mod shop really quickly, once again reminding you guys you need to take this car to the Ellis Carmi to equip the drift tuning upgrade. Of course, as you guys can see here, it's already equipped, so we're not going to remove it. So once you've got that installed, it's time to jump into the upgrades. First off, in armor here, I just recommend maxing this out. This is something I do for all my drift builds. It just helps the car take hits a bit better over longer drift sessions, and just prevents the car from, falling victim to any handling defects when it's really damaged. So I'd recommend just adding it on. Nice helpful upgrade, doesn't impact weight or performance or anything like that. It's only going to help. Moving on here, we've got a bunch of aesthetic stuff, but really quick, I'm going to dip into the liveries here because we have 4 new ones. Now, I did not use any of the new ones for this drift build, but there are some here. So I believe Rusted was the last one we had access to, and here we have the first new one, the Hardcore Drift Team livery. Super crazy and loud livery, lots of pinks and blues and things like that. Very on brand for Rockstar with making these really busy and kind of crazy liveries, but honestly I think it looks really cool. I'm not really sure of a colorway that you would make this work with this livery, but still nonetheless really cool to see. So we have Hardcore Drift Team there. We have the faded Hardcore Drift Team with just some like scratches and things on the livery, of course, and then we have the Old Timer, which is another variant of like a drift car livery, but this time it's got this blue colorway, kind of a classic old style livery, and of course the faded paint. Then we have the Old Timer Alt, which is the same exact layout, but it's just got a different colorway, so you're talking like a faded red pink kind of thing versus a blue. So these are the 4 new liveries, and really quickly, just to keep you guys in the loop on this, you will only have access to these 4 new liveries when drift tuning is equipped. So only when your car's drift tuning can you equip these liveries, and if you equip this drift tuning specific livery and then you remove the tuning, it will reset the livery back to stock. So don't waste your money. Only equip these liveries if you know you're going to keep drift tuning on the car. That's all I got to say about that. But yeah, still some cool options there. But moving on to some of the other upgrades here, we've got pretty much nothing going on here. I kept it kind of a clean grassroots style drift car, but the one upgrade I would recommend adding is a spoiler. Now, really unique thing about the RUNE Cheburek is that it's got a bit of a different power split compared to the other drift tuning cars that we're used to. As you guys know, every drift tuning car is all-wheel drive to some degree. A lot of these cars have a power split where about 10, 15 to 20% of the power is going to the front wheels, and then the rest of that power, 70, 80, 90% is going to the rear wheels. But for this specific car, the Cheburek, it's mainly rear-wheel drive. You have a 93 and 7% power split. So most of the power is going to the rear wheels, only a very small amount is going to the front, which means that for the most part, this car performs like a rear-wheel drive drift car, which makes it, in my opinion, a bit more fun to drift, but that also means it's a little bit more oversteery and tail happy, and I would recommend running a spoiler just to help with overall stability, just to make this car a little bit less prone to oversteer and to increase that rear grip just a little bit, because I think with this car, as opposed to some other drifting cars, you will need that. So yeah, we're going to run a spoiler on this one. Again, it doesn't really matter which one you add, but I would recommend it for a little bit of a grip increase. But yeah, beyond that, we've got the lowest suspension, of course, to reduce body roll, because the suspensions are on all of these drift tuning cars is pretty soft. We've got the, there's no other upgrades. Of course, the transmission, engine, turbo, that's not accessible when you do the drift tuning upgrade. And then beyond that, we've got some tuner wheels on this thing. Of course, you can't equip low grip tires, so they won't have an effect. But yeah, I'm forgetting how simple these drift tuning cars are to build. Really, the only thing is armor, suspension, and potentially adding a spoiler. So really, that's it with regard to upgrades. I've gone through some of the quirks with this car's handling, but now I'm going to stop yapping. We're going to take it to the track and give it a rip. Alright boys, so we're on the test track, and real quick I'm going to show you all the power split that I was talking about before in the mod shop, showing that only about 7% of the power is going to this car's front wheels, the rest is going to the rear. So if we go right up to a wall and floor it, you can see the rear wheels start to hook up. It basically starts doing a rear wheel drive burnout, but it's weird because the front end starts lifting, showing that there is a little bit of power going to the front wheels, but it's not enough to make those front wheels spin. It's hooking up as if that's going to happen, but it's not actually happening, again, because that power split is a little bit different than what we've seen before, which I think is pretty interesting, and that definitely manifests in the way that this car drifts. And honestly, if you guys are low grip drifters and you're really into low grip drift cars, you are familiar with the mid-drive speed boost to kind of propagate longer drifts, then you are going to love the Cheburek. That's exactly what I'm doing right now. I'm able to reliably hit the mid-drive speed boost to link together really long drifts. Again, this car, the mid-drive speed boost is not the most consistent, obviously, because again, you are dealing with a slight bit of power going to the front wheel, so it's not as consistent. Plus, the suspension being so soft means that the car isn't as hooked up, so it's a little bit laggy when you go to try to engage the boost. But once you get into a groove with it, you can pretty much link together really long and wide corners, and you can also drive this car without the mid-drive speed boost at all. I definitely think that adding in the mid-drive speed boost helps the car feel a little bit quicker and snappier, especially in transitions and things like that, but you don't need it. You could see earlier I was driving it with the mid-drive speed boost, and even without it, it's still a pretty solid car, and it's got decent angle, it's got decent speed. It's not the fastest drift car in the world, but honestly, for a car that's built or it's modeled after a Lada, it's pretty quick in drift. I don't think it's going to be the most competitive thing in the world. Honestly, for the fun factor, it's definitely there, and I really enjoy driving this car. Pretty easy to drive, especially for a primarily rear-wheel drive car. Pretty consistent power, doesn't feel too slow. The other thing I want to mention is that this car does not have handling flags. You guys might know that the Cheburek, one of the big things that kind of made this car in its original form really sucky to drive was it had handling flags, basically where you would go to try to engage the mid-drive speed boost, or you would just tap the handbrake just in general to try to drift it, and it wouldn't engage. It would kind of do that weird neutral shift. The car wouldn't rev right, it wouldn't go over bumps correctly. It was just not that fun to drive. And to my knowledge, at least based on the power that I feel right now, that flag is at least removed when the drift tuning is equipped. So you really do get a lot more speed than you're used to when you drive the ordinary Cheburek. And you can see, especially in those longer and wider turns, the car isn't necessarily fast, but it just kind of keeps pulling, and it's very consistent power-wise. And you guys will see occasionally as well, I feel like I'm bouncing around just because this car has a lot of different things and little features that I want to discuss through. But one thing about this car, and as you've seen me a couple times almost struggle with the angle, again, that's kind of that rear-wheel drive bias, making this car a little bit harder to hold its sustained angle. This is one of those cars that you need to watch your angle. Obviously, it holds a lot of angle, but you will need to watch it as you approach the limits of the angle, because this thing can very well oversteer and totally spin out. And you can left foot brake to try to get yourself out of it, but again, because you don't have a lot of power going to the front wheels, you don't have as much forward bite, and that's gonna kind of take away from you, being able to hold out really long and wide, really high angle drifts rather. Yeah, man, you could just kind of keep your foot floored, and if you want to get a little bit more technical, you can engage the mid-drive speed boost, but even without it, this thing hauls, and it's super fun to drive. Honestly, again, for a pretty, low budget drift car, all things considered, in the modern GTA economy, and considering some of the customization options, obviously this car, I didn't show it, but it's got the cardboard body kit if you want to do that too. Really fun and quirky car. Ooh, that was clean. There we go. Nice little 270. That was sweet. Super smooth car. Very fun to drift. I'm gonna link it around here, and we're gonna try to see if we can't close off this video with a reverse entry of some sort. But all right, so we're back onto the main part of the track here, and really quick, just doing a pull just straight, not even trying to drift, you can see that this thing kind of hauls. It's honestly kind of crazy how fast it feels when the handling flag on this car has been removed. I love it, and I honestly wish the ordinary Cheburek was like that, but I guess you kind of just got to pay up for the drift tuning to be able to feel this car without the handling flag. But anyway, I said I'd try to cap this video off with a reverse entry, so let's see if we can hit one. Let's see here. Chuck it in, dip into it. Not fully reverse entry, but we mostly held it. That was super smooth. But yeah, you guys can see here, man, super fun, super consistent car to drive. Requires a little bit more skill than the other drift tuning cars, but I still think it's so much fun. And especially for the price, man, you're really getting a good bang for buck with this. Little reverse entry there. Again, it's a little bit easier because you do have a little bit of power going to the front wheels, but still a fun kind of techie car, a little bit of a quirky car to drive. But I'm honestly having a ball with this, and if you guys don't already have one, I'd highly recommend getting this thing while you can. And honestly, I'm just gonna leave the video there. That's really all that needs to be said. I'm gonna stop yapping. I've just been so hyped trying to get videos out for these new drift tuning cars. So yeah, boys, I'm gonna end it there. Thank you guys so much for watching. Enjoy these drift cars, and also enjoy the new drift races that they've added. I'm probably not gonna make a video on that, but go and enjoy those too. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.